What's up, you beautiful motherfuckers? We're back at it once again with another podcast for you. We had a lot of fun with this conversation and talked about a lot of stuff that was near to us. We started with Carrie Fisher and how Star Wars sparked a love for sci-fi in our culture, the good and evil side of religion, as well as the ancient Sumerian origin story, also about the Large Hadron Collider and subatomic particles. We finished this podcast talking about time travel and the use of science to bring back extinct animals, and also the moral obligations that comes with that. Hopefully you all enjoy this as much as we did. We'll catch you on the other side.
You are now listening to the Random Words Podcast, a podcast about nothing and everything.
Prepare your anus.
So thanks for joining us here once again on the Random Words Podcast. I'm Jason, he's Matt,
What's up, motherfuckers?
and we're here to put some random words in your ear holes. How's your day been going, buddy?
Pretty good, man. How about you, Cheryl?
Once again, I don't know what's this Cheryl shit. You just started this. Do you have? Is it an inside joke I don't know about?
No, you're Cheryl.
I'm not Cheryl.
It's your new fucking name.
Where did you get Cheryl from?
You are a Cheryl.
I don't feel like I'm a Cheryl.
100%.
I think if I was anything... Go ahead.
Go ahead and look at yourself in the mirror. You are a Cheryl. The female version of you would be a Cheryl.
I feel as if I was a female, my name would be Debbie. Because I feel like Debbies are sluts. No offense to any Debbie out there. It's just kind of generic. It's like Candy for a stripper name. And I feel like I would be a slut, so I would say Debbie would be my name.
So are we talking about Debbie with a Y or I-E?
I-E. 100% I-E.
I gotcha. Or maybe just ending in an I, like D-E-B-B-I? Like, I's are sluts too, right?
I's can definitely be sluts, but I think I-E is where I would stick. Because you kind of, it's...
And I think the I's are getting a little bit into, like, the crazy spectrum, like where you're going to chop off your baby's arm or something.
Yeah, the eyes can definitely be crazy. I just want to be kind of slutty, but I also want to be proper. Like, I want you to take me out to good restaurants, but I also want to be a freak in the bed. So, I feel that Debbie would suit me a lot more than Cheryl. Where did you get Cheryl? Who's Cheryl?
You are Cheryl.
So this is how it's going to start tonight, guys. I'm sorry for him. I do apologize. I'm trying to get some medication, but it just doesn't seem to be working.
You're not force-feeding me any more pills. I don't like it, man. It makes my mind trip out.
Well, if you wouldn't struggle so much, it wouldn't be a fucking issue.
So, don't put a fucking rag over my mouth. We won't have this issue.
Well, if you stop screaming, the old guy downstairs will stop yelling at us.
He tried to come up here and help. He tried to save me. You heard at the end of the first podcast, I was yelling for help. This motherfucker comes sprinting up the stairs with a 2x4.
Okay, it wasn't a 2x4. It was a 1x6. That's not over, it wasn't that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal, folks.
It's a big deal. He was trying to stick a fucking baseball bat up my anus. That's a big deal. I don't know if you've ever had a baseball bat up your anus. It's not a pleasant sensation.
It depends on who you're asking.
No, it's not for fucking anyone. If you take a baseball bat up the sphincter, you're not happy.
Don't judge other people's what they like and what they don't like, all right?
If they like that, I think they might need medication.
Well, what is somebody else that likes something other than you now needs medication? Are you saying that anybody that doesn't hold your views needs medication?
Yes, because I don't think you should rape me. That means I need fucking medication.
It wasn't rape. You enjoyed it.
I did not.
Stop lying to our viewers.
Guys, I didn't enjoy it.
He did. I think you're just being a little overdramatic.
Well, that might be the case. But regardless, these people didn't come here to hear about my rape adventures.
No, they did not come to hear about the rape adventures. However, I'm going to let you know. So today, I feel that my toilet is too small. Because today was the second day I clogged it up. Not in a row, but it's the second clog I've had since we moved into this new apartment.
Mm.
And I feel like my shits are too big for this toilet.
Well, that's definitely an issue.
Yeah, and I had to steal your plunger to get it all to go down.
You motherfucker.
Speaking of, we're going to need to get you a new plunger.
Please, I don't want to use your shit-stained plunger.
It's not shit. Like, the bowl was clean. It was just water that was still left in there. It wasn't...
There's so many poop particles on that. I mean, granted, there are poop particles on everything.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's a substantially larger amount on a plunger.
I guess I can see that view. I guess I'll buy you a new plunger.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Can I get one of those little wooden plungers, though, or does it have to be like one of the nice plastic ones?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be necessarily plastic, but it has to be that same general shape. Because the other ones, I found out that there is actually different types of plungers. There's, the generic ones that, like, come down, like the typical plunger.
Right. It's just a half moon.
Yeah. Those are actually for sinks and bathtubs and stuff. And the ones, like, you sell from me, that one's actually for a toilet. The shape's different, so it causes, like, a different kind of suction or something like that.
See, I don't think it's suction. Like, I'm pretty sure that forces water down into the hole.
Well, regardless. Whatever it may be. Whatever force is acting upon the clog.
Yeah.
It's different.
I think that one, essentially, it's like a water jet. It shoots water down the toilet. It works really well.
Do you think it's like that, or do you think it builds some kind of back pressure in the pipe?
I mean, I guess it could. I mean, I don't know exactly what it would do, but it looks like just by the design, I feel that it gets water inside of it, and then when you press it in, you push the water down through the hole. So it's like a forceful jet that shoots down through there and unclogs it. Either way, works very well. It's only like 2 or 3 pumps, and it's all gone.
Oh, yeah. It's so much better than those fucking old ones where you're just hammering on it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, the old ones are bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, that one, it definitely helped me with my issues. But once again, I'll buy you a new plunger.
So, I mean, are you ever just sitting on the toilet and you feel your nuts dragging the water?
I don't think many people have that issue.
Like, okay, so the other day I sat on a public restroom toilet, so that's even more disgusting at this point.
Agreed.
And I guess the water levels were super high in that toilet, and my fucking nuts were just dangling in the water. That is legit the most unpleasant, uncomfortable sensation I've ever had in my life.
I don't think I've ever had my balls touch toilet water. That might just be I have really small balls. I don't know. You want to compare?
No, I don't.
Okay. I'm gonna say you have very large balls. I'm assuming that was what the issue was.
Like, do you think I should go get it checked out? Is it like some kind of tumor type thing?
I mean, I don't know. There was a South Park episode where Stan's dad had super balls. He had like carry them around.
Like Randy's balls in a wheelbarrow.
Yeah, in a wheelbarrow. Yeah. So I mean, if that's your issue, if you're having to wheelbarrow your balls, fucking shit, you can't say that. Wheelbarrow your balls. If you're ever in the case where you need to wheelbarrow your balls. Fucking shit.
I'm fucking done. Just call it there.
Alright, podcast over. We're out.
Catch you bitches next time.
So, past the wheelbarrow of the balls, because that was a travesty. We're going to have a couple different topics we try to get to today. The first thing we're going to start with is Princess Leia, Carrie Fisher. She died at the age of 60. She died on Tuesday the 26th at 8:55 a.m. It says that she had a heart attack on a flight from London to Los Angeles on Friday and has been hospitalized in Los Angeles ever since. So, Princess Leia of the famed Star Wars original trilogy, and in the new Star Wars movie, not the Rogue One that just came out, but the one before that, was it The Force Awakens? Mm-hmm. She died at the age of 60 from a heart attack. Now, just judging back from that, the last Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens, she looked pretty healthy in that. I mean, it was definitely a surprise to me, at least, that she passed away so quickly.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, she has such a large and profound fan base. I mean, everyone and their grandmother have seen Star Wars,
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a passing that truly impacts the whole globe, I mean, because fucking everyone has seen Star Wars.
Yeah, well, and I even had a few friends I talked to about it, and like they hadn't even watched the Star Wars trilogy, but they knew who Princess Leia was.
Right.
So, I mean, she's transcended that, because, I mean, I guess Star Wars originally was, it was the geek, the nerd stuff back in the 70s, and, it was the Dungeons and Dragons kids and the AV Club and stuff like that. And now, it seems like more of the modern culture is coming to where the hip thing is nerd culture and nerdom and stuff like that. So there seems to be a lot more focus on video games, on, just alternate technologies and stuff like that. Technology in general. And I mean, that's just, I guess the nerd culture came up with that. So it seems that culture is starting to take over as the mainstream culture now. It's the hip thing to do.
Yeah, the whole movie series sparked a completely new genre of TV series.
Yeah, I mean, before Star Wars, I mean, there wasn't too much focus on outer space or sci-fi or anything like that. Star Wars was definitely the tipping point for that genre. It was something that influenced so many other movies and other video games and just any other outlets for that sci-fi. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of books were bred from the Star Wars as well. Right. From Star Wars as well.
Well, I mean, fuck, man, an entire fucking religion came from it.
Yeah, Scientology. I mean, right? That's
The most prolific sci-fi writer was the fucking founder of Scientology, or the deity, or I don't know too much about it, but regardless.
he was the founder and the deity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his name was L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
I believe he was like you said, he was the most prolific sci-fi writer there ever was. He wrote more fiction in his life than anybody else ever to ever exist. No one else wrote more fiction than the man L. Ron Hubbard, and people took his Scientology writing as the truth versus fiction.
Yep.
I mean, if you want to believe in Scientology and there's, Scientologists, that's fine. If it's what you believe in, it helps you be a better person or something like that, by all means, I don't have any problem with it. But do you think they really believe that that's, a truth that he spoke to them? This man that wrote more fiction than anyone ever had just so happened to tell the truth this one time?
I mean, you wouldn't think so. I mean, to us, it's illogical to think that. To us, I mean, it's fiction. I mean, that's the basis of all religion to us. I mean, because we're both not religious people, we don't see that we see that as stories, not as, something to deeply take to heart and believe in. I mean, even if we are open to the idea of religion, we still don't acknowledge that is anything other than fiction.
Well, I mean, to that point, you used to be a little bit more religious.
I did.
So, I mean, do you know what was the tipping point, or what had you sway to the other side to where you stopped believing as much as you did? So before we go with that, what would you classify yourself as right now? Would you say agnostic?
Yeah, I'm agnostic. Because like you said in a previous podcast, I can't remember which one, you said that it was arrogant to believe in one way or another. And I agree with that. I mean, we have no fucking way of knowing.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I die, if I see Jesus, and I'll be like, yo, that's cool. You should let me in here. We can party.
Yeah, like maybe, if you would have shown me a little sooner, I would have believed. Maybe I would have done something.
I mean, I think that we are both very pragmatic and logical people.
Yeah.
And in saying that, it's hard for us to just blindly trust something, to blindly jump into something, both feet, and not have any idea what the outcome is going to be, if it's even fucking real.
True.
And I mean, me personally, I choose to believe what I can see. I choose to believe, in the astrophysics and all of that stuff. Because we have methods of testing that. We have the scientific method. We have a fucking stages we go through to prove that something is real or disprove that.
So do you remember when you stopped believing more of the religious teachings than you do now? Was there a certain point to where you're like, that seems a little fucky. Is that real? I
mean, I want to say that the point where I really stopped believing completely was whenever Josh killed himself. My best friend since third grade killed himself. Mm. And I believe that made me start questioning a lot of things as to why God would allow certain things to happen. I mean, if he is an all-knowing and almighty and positive being, if he is someone who wants to love and take care of us, why does he allow the little 11-year-old girls to get raped? If he has the power to stop that, if he is truly all-powerful, why does he allow them to get raped?
Well, I mean, they say that everything happens for a reason, even the horrible things, because you can't have light without darkness. So, I mean, just that thought alone, I don't know who said it. I'm sure somebody said it. There was a philosopher of some sort, but you can't have light without the darkness. So if you just think about that one point for a second, what we know to be light, when you look up and there's a light in the closet that we're sitting in, you know that it's emitting light. However, if there was no such thing as darkness, there was no such thing as night, it was always day, it was perpetual daylight, you wouldn't really have a word for daylight or light because there's no opposite to it. You have a word for light because there's also a word for darkness. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to look at it and say, even the horrible stuff, there's a reason. Maybe it taught somebody a lesson. Maybe it did something like that. But I'm kind of on the tendency with you. I agree that if, an omnipresent being that was all caring, all loving and stuff like that, some of the shit he could do away with.
Right.
There was a YouTube video I showed you a while back from Stephen Fry. And he was talking about how he was actually an atheist, is what he was saying. But he was saying that the reason he stopped believing, I don't know if he ever believed, but the reason he came up with was that he was saying that now, I don't know this, I'm just quoting him, so whether or not he was talking out of his ass, I don't know. But he said that there was some kind of insect or bacteria or something that lived in the jungles of Africa. And he said its sole purpose was to burrow into the eyes of children, of human children. That's what it does. It doesn't go into any other animals. It burrows into the eyes of human children and eats its way from the outside or from the inside out. And leaves those children blind. And he was saying that if there's a such thing as God and he's all loving, how could he let this bacteria, which serves no other purpose than to eat through the eyes of these children and leave them blind, exist? How could you let that exist if you're all loving? And to me, it seemed like a very reasonable question.
Right.
And I mean, I guess you could probably look it up on YouTube, but it's just an interview, just Stephen Fry on the topic of religion. If you YouTube that, sure, it'll come up. I want to say it was a BBC documentary or something like that. And I mean, he just goes into a real in-depth conversation. The interviewer actually said that was the most in-depth and, thoughtful answer that he ever got to that question. It wasn't, because I believe the question was, do you believe in God? Do you consider yourself a Christian? Or whatever. He said, do you believe in a higher power? And he said, and it's like a 5-minute clip or something like that, and he said that was the most in-depth, thoughtful answer that he ever got to that question, was from Stephen Fry. And it was just a very interesting outlook on somebody else's perception of religion.
Right. And going back to the whole thing that you said, that there can't be light without darkness. But my argument to that is, if God is all-powerful, as the Bible claims him to be, then he can create light without darkness.
I guess that's true, but there wouldn't be any way for us to perceive any difference.
Why do we need to perceive a difference in the first place? If God wants it to be that way, why isn't it just that way?
Well, maybe he wants there to be some darkness. Because what's joy without sadness? If you were never sad, those joyful moments when you're truly happy would never be as good. When this goes back to like just me playing football. Let's go to that. And I want to say it's 3rd or 4th grade, we lost every game that season. Every game in that Pop Warner League, we lost every game that season, and it felt horrible. And I was in a low spot as a kid, man. I just felt like I was worthless. I was like, damn, we did all this work, and we didn't win a single game. We were the worst ever. And then the next season, or it might have been 2 seasons after that, we won like 2nd place or something like that. And that high from winning that 2nd place trophy after I was already at the lowest of the lows, not winning a single game all season, to winning 2nd place in our division or something like that, I remember I felt like I was on top of the fucking world. So I think that, you have to have some kind of sadness or darkness to make those good feelings amplified and feel better. Because you're never going to feel as good as you would as if you've never felt that pain.
Right. And I mean, rational me believes what you're saying. Mm-hmm. Rational me acknowledges that. But on the topic of religion, the Bible itself contradicts that. In Genesis, the Bible says that there was no evil before they partook of the apple. The tree of knowledge.
Adam
or whatever.
and Eve.
Yeah, Adam and Eve. Before Eve fucked everything up for everyone. It was a happy-go-lucky place. There weren't even fucking thorns on the ground. That's a paraphrased quote.
Right.
There weren't even fucking thorns. There was nothing bad. Why couldn't it stay like that?
Well, but, you disrespected the rules. There's gotta be punishment. When your dog pisses on the floor, you slap him with a newspaper.
So punishment for somebody eating an apple is 11-year-old girls getting raped.
Well, and let's talk about, that's a good point, but let's talk about as far as the whole punishment for eating the apple. It was from the tree of knowledge, right? The tree of knowledge. He didn't want Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. He wanted to keep Adam and Eve ignorant. He didn't want them to have the knowledge. What knowledge is he not wanting them to have to where it's so bad, as you said, then he created all the bad shit in the world?
Boom. I got it. It was the fucking Anunnaki telling us they didn't want us to learn their secrets. They didn't want us to be anything other than cattle for them. And gold farming cattle.
The Anunnaki he is talking about, if you do not know, it is the ancient Sumerian origin story. The Anunnaki were a race of beings that came from, I forget where it is. I want to say maybe Orion's belt or somewhere over there. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
I thought it was Nibiru.
Well, Nibiru, I believe, was the planet name or something like that, or that might be Planet X. I don't know.
I believe it is Planet X.
I think we're going into a few different things here. But either way, it's getting a little convoluted. It doesn't matter. They were a race of beings from another world that came down here, and they needed to get gold for their atmosphere. Their atmosphere was failing, and for whatever reason, they needed to have gold. They found that Earth was a good planet to get gold from, and they decided, let's get some gold here. So they started building mines and stuff like that, and they're like, well, shit, we need somebody to work our mines, right? We don't want to work this shit ourselves. So then they took humans, or what was ever there at the time, and they did a little bit of DNA manipulation or something like that. Took some monkeys, crossbred with their DNA, and made Homo sapiens as it is. And then they had those Homo sapiens work in those gold mines as slaves. So the ancient Sumerian texts, and the ancient Sumerian are the oldest known culture that we know of today. They're the oldest people that started writing first. Like I'm sure most people learned about in social studies back in the day, cuneiform. Cuneiform was the first writing system that we know of. That was the ancient Sumerians. Well, in their writings, in their tellings, they tell of this race of beings that came down from the stars and forced them to be slaves to work in their gold mines. So this is the first people we ever knew of that wrote some shit down, said that we were slaves to an alien race. That's some pretty crazy shit to think about, whether or not they're just telling stories, whatever the case may be. But they said that a race of aliens came down from the stars, made us, and then forced us to work in their gold mines, and then left once they got enough gold.
Yeah. I mean, all other ancient religions are based on the premise of not being a dick, and these guys worship fucking aliens. Okay. I think we have a discrepancy here.
Very true. I mean, it's a very interesting story to look into. I definitely went on a tangent looking through Wikipedia and just YouTube videos when I first looked it up. So it's definitely an interesting story to go into. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I've been a sci-fi fan for a long time. And I can't really remember when I first really started liking sci-fi. I want to say maybe it was, I don't know what came first. It was either Avatar for me, or it was Avatar the movie, obviously, James Cameron. Or it was Stargate Universe, which was I want to say it was a sci-fi original. I'm not sure. I know there's another big Stargate that a lot of people know of, Stargate Atlantis. I never watched that one. I tried to go back and watch it on Hulu a while back, and just could not make it through it. It was too old. Special effects were too bad. But Stargate Universe started in 2008, and it went until 2010. So it's only got 2 seasons. Both of those seasons have 20 episodes. I think all of them are about 45 to 50 minutes long. So, I mean, there's a lot of content there, but it only has 2 seasons. But, I mean, the first season, the first episode in the Stargate Universe show, they imprint, so they have what's called Stargates, right? These Stargates are essentially wormholes to different places in the universe. They were left by an ancient race that we don't really know much about, but we've found their Stargates and are starting to use them. And the first episode, it has a kid, or I say a kid, he's probably, our age, 20 to 25, somewhere in that range. And he's playing video games online with a friend. And it's some video game that, obviously it's not a mainstream game, it's just made up for the movie. And so in this game, he's trying to solve a puzzle, and then he thinks he solves the puzzle, and then nothing happens, and the level restarts. So he's like, well, that fucking blows, I solved the puzzle, and nothing happened. Well, the next morning, a government agent and a scientist come to his door. They start talking to him, they're like, yeah, we need you to come with us, because we imprinted a million-year-old code into that game that you were playing last night, and you were the only one on this world that's ever solved that mathematical problem. You need to come with us. And he's like, where are we going? And he's like, we're going on a starship. We're going to go on our starship. So the kid, obviously, he laughs at him. He's like, all right, guys, well, I'm just going to go ahead and close the door now. I'll catch you guys later. And he starts walking up the staircase, and they beam him up into the fucking starship as he's walking up the staircase.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Beam me up, Scotty. And so he goes on this starship, and I mean, obviously, it's just the normal sci-fi bullshit. There's, aliens on board, there's a plague, whatever. There's all the sci-fi scenarios. The oxygen's not working, we gotta get that fixed. I mean, so it's just normal cliche at this point sci-fi stuff. But the special effects are so good, the writing's really good, the acting's phenomenal. It only went 2 seasons long, and I'm assuming got canceled. I, haven't done much with it. But man, those 2 seasons were fucking phenomenal. When I got to the end of that second season, and it leaves on the biggest cliffhanger I've ever experienced. The biggest cliffhanger I've ever experienced. And it kills me, man. Because I was so excited to see where they go next. And so we got to the end of it, and I believe I was watching it actually on Netflix at the time. I think Netflix has recently taken off, but I think Hulu picked it back up.
Yeah.
And so I got done with the second season, I was like, wow, man, that's fucking phenomenal. I seen there wasn't a third. So then I went and started Googling, Stargate Universe 3rd season to see when it started again. And to my surprise, they had it canceled. And then they talked about maybe taking a movie or making a movie to wrap up the storyline, but that never came to fruition, and it just fucking died. And I really wish that, I knew about it when it first came on Sci-Fi or whatever, so I could have supported it. I know one other viewer's not going to make any bit of difference, and they still would have cut the thing. If you watch those 2 seasons on Hulu, you make it all the way through, and you get to that ending, and you get to that cliffhanger, you will not want anything more than to see the resolution of that show. It was so fucking good. Somebody that's not really into sci-fi, my mom, I got her to start watching it, and she blew through both seasons. And, she was watching 3 or 4 episodes a night, and she was just binge watching. She was telling me how good it was and stuff like that. And so even somebody that's not really into sci-fi, she got deep into it. That's how good this show was, and I can't believe they actually canceled it.
So if you had to compare the show to Game of Thrones, where would you say the rankings lie?
I mean, just on substance, because there's not enough. There's not enough with Stargate Universe. It's, it only has 2 seasons. Granted, each has 20 episodes, and you're looking close to probably 30 hours, maybe a little bit more of content, because they're all about 45 minutes long. So, it has quite a bit of content, but from a, the story progresses very slowly because they were doing 20 episodes a season. So with only 2 seasons being there and Game of Thrones having, what are we on, 6 now, I believe? Game of Thrones is definitely going to outright win. But that's to say, if Stargate Universe would have continued for another 4 or 5 seasons, it might pull it out for me. Because I'm a huge fantasy nerd as well, but, sci-fi is where my home is. I am 100% sci-fi nerd.
See, man, that's where we differ. I will take dragons and fireballs any day over some blue aliens.
But what if you can take both?
Avatar.
If you look, Avatar. It has blue aliens, dragons, and some fireballs. Sure.
Yep.
I don't really remember fireballs. I'm sure those dragons could spit fire.
They had flamethrowers.
Yeah, they had some flamethrowers. That'll work. But, and I don't know, like, Avatar the movie is by far my favorite movie ever made. And I think it goes back to, because I also have this huge love for Native American culture and Native American storytelling and stuff like that. And I think the whole mythos behind the Native Americans' lore and stuff like that is just fucking phenomenally cool. And so when you mix Native American tribal kind of storyline with fantasy, where there's some dragons and shit, and then you also mix that with sci-fi on a different fucking planet where there's floating mountains, how the fuck can you get any better? That's like a nerd's wet dream. That is by far the best movie ever made, and I cannot wait for I believe he's making 4 sequels or 3 sequels now. And I think the first one's scheduled to come out in 2018 or something like that, or the second one rather.
Load it up, boys. We're going to Pandora.
I would fucking love, if somebody come down here right now and was like, hey, that Avatar shit? That wasn't a movie. That's real. That's real people. You want to go to Pandora? I'm gone. I'm leaving my family. Unless my family wants to come with me, then by all means, we'll all go as one. But I am fucking leaving my family here if I can go play on Pandora as a Avatar.
Thanks, bud. Love you too.
Yeah, no problem. I'm just saying. I'm being honest right now. That is my fucking dream. And if I could be a giant blue alien and I had to leave you guys for that, I'm out of here.
So, do you think the human race will ever advance to the point where we can visit other life-sustaining planets, or do you think we're all just going to nuke each other before then?
The nuke is a possibility. As far as going to another planet, that's...
Life-sustaining planet.
A life-sustaining planet, correct. Like, we could go to Mars, and unless we do some fucking crazy-ass terraforming on Mars, we're not living there. At least not a big population of us are going to live there. As far as a sustainable planet, you're talking light years away. And there's no way to get there until you use wormholes, until you're using warp drives. That's the only way you can possibly get there. Wormholes are, I'm sure most people that are listening know this, but wormholes are essentially, it's a rip in space-time. It's where if you take a sheet of paper, and this is how it was explained to me.
Interstellar, by the way.
Was it Interstellar?
Mm-hmm.
No, I definitely knew this before the movie Interstellar. I was probably just from listening to countless Ancient Aliens on whatever, or
right.
Whoever, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, Joe Rogan. But either way. So, what wormholes essentially are, if you take a piece of paper, just normal notebook paper or copy paper, whatever, and you fold it in half, if you look at the edges of that where that half meets, it's a lot closer together. So if you unfold it and you look and you put a dot on one edge of the paper and a dot on the other edge of the paper, they're really far away. But if you fold it, those 2 dots are now only millimeters away from each other. And so then imagine, so where those dots are a lot closer, then you take a pencil and you punch a hole through the paper. And now those dots, there's a clear path through the paper on those dots. And so what a wormhole is, it essentially folds the fabric of space-time and then punches a hole to where those 2 holes, or where those 2 dots are closer. So instead of having to travel 6.8 light years across to this planet, you fold that space-time, punch your hole, and travel 10 seconds, and you essentially pop out on the other side 6.2 light years away. So, wormhole technology is the coolest shit that you could possibly think of. So any warp drive or anything like that you hear on Star Trek or Star Wars or whatever, when they warp to another galaxy or something like that, they're essentially using a personal wormhole. And until we can get to that technology, we're not fucking going anywhere. And that technology seems to be a long way away.
Yeah. Because that would be the only way to travel through space like that. Physics as we know it don't allow you to travel past the speed of light or even to the speed of light.
Yeah, you can travel 99.9999999% of the speed of light, but you can't ever hit 100% as we know it.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that doesn't change in the next few years or whatever.
Because as we know it, any object with mass cannot reach the speed of light.
Exactly. It has to be something like a photon. A photon is a particle, it's a light particle, it has zero mass, moves at the speed of light because it's a light particle, obviously.
So, on that same train of thought, what if we found a way to separate the Higgs boson from normal particles?
So, and explain what the Higgs boson is for people that don't know.
You take it, bud.
So the Higgs boson, it's a subatomic particle that they've recently found, and they're calling it the God particle. And so the Higgs boson, it's this particle they just recently found, and what it essentially does is it gives mass to other particles. So any particle that has mass, the Higgs boson is the subatomic particle responsible for giving those particles mass. So what was your question again?
So, I mean, if we could separate the Higgs boson from normal particles.
So take the Higgs boson subatomic particle out of normal particles.
Yes. So would that allow us to achieve speed of light, do you think?
I think you could probably achieve the speed of light at that point, but you would have to have the technology and the energy to do so, which I think we're still very far away from. So even if we get to the point to where we can separate the Higgs boson from mass, so you can take the chair you're sitting in, remove all the Higgs boson subparticles, and your chair no longer has mass, then you could accelerate that at the speed of light. I think it's physically possible. Whether or not we will ever get to a point to where we have the technology or the energy capacity to do so is another question.
Right, and I mean, the technology required to do that, I mean, we've only had for like 70 years. Splitting atoms, going back to the nuclear shit.
Yeah.
Came out in the 40s, right?
Something close to that, yeah.
Yeah, so about 70, 80 years, somewhere in there. And I mean, in 80 years, we have not made that much advancement on that.
Well,
so.
I mean, there hasn't been much of a reason to. I mean, and now we're
well, I mean, all the wars, nukes and shit, that's...
Yeah, but there hasn't been a reason to go into subatomic particles.
True.
Once we got the atom splitting, we realized that released a large amount of energy. You can make bombs with that, good to go. But now we're starting to look a lot closer at it. And with the LHC, the Large Hadron Collider, it's recently reopened back in Switzerland, they're starting to be able to actually research all these subatomic particles and see into the universe of the subatomic particle. And they're saying that normal physics do not apply to subatomic particles. So we're now talking about a different physics for the subatomic level. So our physics system that we know it right now, everything, gravity, everything that we have, everything that we know, makes zero sense with subatomic particles.
So do you think that would technically be classified as a different dimension then?
I wouldn't say it'd be a different dimension because we can still experience it within our dimension. We can experience it within 3D space, which is a third dimension. It's our dimension. Right. So if we can see it. Now, that's not to say that we can only see the part of it that's in the third dimension. They've actually found, and I don't know exactly where this is and I don't know what particle, but they were talking about with the Large Hadron Collider that they found a particle that was actually blinking in and out of existence to our perception. So, I mean, as far as we can tell, what we see is the particle goes away and then reappears in a different place. Now, that's not to say that it's actually disappearing and then reappearing. What it could be doing is disappearing into an alternate dimension that we can't see, like a fourth, fifth, sixth dimension, whatever. Something that our technology or our human bodies don't have the ability to process. We're not able to perceive those fourth, fifth, sixth dimensions. So it could be blinking out of the third dimension, going into the fourth or fifth dimension, coming over here a little bit, and then popping back into the third dimension where we can see it again. So that's one theory on it, I believe, that it's going into a different dimension and coming out somewhere else. The other theory is that it's actually using a subatomic wormhole. It's using a wormhole, essentially, to pop from one place to other. It's folding space-time to where when we look at it, it looks like it instantly goes from here to here, but in reality, it's actually traveling through a wormhole and bending space-time as we see it. So we still have a lot more research to do with it, and we still have to, see what it's actually causing and whether or not we'll ever be able to see that. I mean, it's just, we don't know if we're ever going to have a technology saying that it is going into different dimensions or something like that. We don't know if we're ever going to be able to see those other dimensions. Hopefully technology gets to a point where we can see it, but at this point, we don't know.
And do we have any idea whatsoever what creates wormholes?
No. Wormholes are, we have no clue. And I want to say, I'm pretty sure. So another word for wormholes is the Einstein-Rosen bridge. And so it was Einstein, and I don't know if it was a collab between the two, but it was Einstein and another scientist, I'm assuming Rosen or something like that, Einstein-Rosen. Whoever that other guy was, sorry, butchering his name, he's probably dead now, it doesn't really matter. But I think it was a collaboration between those two, and they brought up the theory of wormholes and how they could exist and fold space-time. Because, before the general theory of relativity, space and time are two different things. And so then Einstein proposed that they were both one thing. They were one and the same, that space-time was a pliable, I don't know what you would even call it, but gravity can have forces on it and stuff like that. So it's like a pliable sheet of paper or something like that. So if you roll if you roll a marble onto a piece of paper,
you're going to see an indentation on that paper where the weight of that marble is. They're saying if you essentially imagine the piece of paper as space-time and the marble as a planet, and that sinking in of that space-time is how when something with mass and a lot of gravity sinks in to space-time, it's essentially like a marble sinking into paper. So it's like this pliable surface that gives way to stuff with mass. But they're saying since it's pliable and it gives, that means you can fold it. And if you can fold it, you can make wormholes.
So, I mean, in my head, and I obviously don't know shit about quantum physics or astrophysics.
I don't think many people do. I don't think subatomic particles are in the realm of anyone's comprehension. Even the people that are researching it have zero fucks. They have no clue what's happening with those particles.
Right. But what I was getting at is it would take an absolutely absurd amount of energy to fold that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're talking astronomical. You're talking something we can't produce. We can't even think about producing as much energy as it would take to power a wormhole.
Right. Which is another point of research with the LHC, because they're looking into antimatter and dark matter. And, I mean, with that, the amount of fucking energy that could produce is astronomical. It's more than any of us can comprehend, even in the slightest. Because whenever, I think back to the Dan Brown book, Angels and Demons. And the way they described it in that book was antimatter, whenever it comes in contact with regular matter, with our perceivable matter, it creates a massive explosion, just a huge release of particles and energy whenever the two interact.
Right.
And, I mean, could that potentially, what I'm thinking is that could potentially be our fuel to warp space.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what, anyone that's talking about warping space or wormholes or anything like that, the only physical way that we know of right now is through dark energy or dark matter. The thing about that is that's all still theory. We've never seen dark matter, so we don't know if it actually exists. Now, from what we know about the universe, it should. On paper with the mathematical equations that these very smart people do, it looks like it should work. It looks like it should exist. But once again, we have no fucking clue. We honestly still don't really know much about gravity. And, that seems weird to say. Any fifth or sixth grader, they learn about gravity. They learn about this force that holds us down. But in all reality, we don't really know much about it. I want to say it was maybe only like 6 or 8 months ago. It was something I think it was NASA, could be talking out of my ass. They found the first evidence of gravitational waves. And that was essentially from when there's a supernova and that star explodes, that it sends out these waves. It ripples through the gravity. And we actually picked up what we think was a sign or an essence of those gravitational waves. And that was the first time that we ever kind of had a, gravity's confirmed kind of thing. And we're still not 100% about it. We're pretty fucking sure. But the fact that gravity is so far ingrained in the general human knowledge, if you ask anyone on the streets, what's holding you to this planet, they're going to say gravity. But when we really don't know if it exists or how it exists or what it really is, it's crazy to think about. It's something that's so far ingrained in us, but we still have no fucking clue. And then you start talking about subatomic particles, the Higgs boson and quarks and stuff like this. No one has any fucking idea. We're all guesswork right here. The LHC could totally make a black hole and swallow the fucking Earth, and we'll never fucking see it.
Switzerland.
Yeah, we'll never see it again. We'll never see it coming. We have no clue. We are in uncharted territories, dark waters. We don't know what's happening, but it might give us either wormholes and space-time travel and once you can make a wormhole and you can travel through space-time, then that could lead to time travel. And I don't know about you, I want to go see some fucking dinosaurs.
Time travel scares me, man.
You're talking what the fucking
multiverse?
Well, I mean, you're talking so you're talking Back to the Future where
where you fuck up one thing, you create a completely different timeline. I mean, yeah, granted, you could just say, fuck this timeline, I'm out, I'm gonna jump back over here to this other timeline, because if I have the technology to travel through time, I probably have the ability to jump timelines as well.
I would assume so. So you're also talking butterfly effect, Ashton Kutcher in this bitch.
Yep. And I mean, with that, it's fucking terrifying to think that if I drop my phone and I crack the screen walking down the street, that fucking Hitler might still be alive somehow, some fucking way.
Yeah, the butterfly effect is a scary fucking thing to think about. And for anyone that hasn't, to me, honestly, that's the only movie I've ever watched with Ashton Kutcher, or anything really Ashton Kutcher's done, that I fucking loved. And it got a lot of bad reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, it was like
47%
or something stupid, or 27, something stupid.
And I mean, obviously those are critic reviews, because you look at the other one, everyone I know that's ever watched it loved that movie. So if you haven't watched Butterfly Effect, go out, rent it, find it somewhere, watch that movie, because it's fucking phenomenal.
Totally legally, download it off Google Play.
Yeah, Google Play. No, we don't, don't give any credence to any shifty sites or anything like that.
Don't go fucking Captain Jack Sparrow on us.
Yeah, you're not pirates. Get your shit legally, okay? We're getting off on a little bit of a tangent. So back to the topic of time travel. Say you have one chance to time travel anywhere into the past or the future. You can only do it once. You can only go there and come back. Where are you going?
Call me fucking Marty McFly. I'm going back to the past.
You're going to the past. Well, see, I'm Marty McFly as well, and I'm going to the future. Why are you going to the past?
I'm going to the past because I don't want to waste that opportunity going to the future, and the future be there's no Earth. That this shit got blown up by a couple of nukes.
I might reconsider going to the future now. I did not think about that, because there's some pretty cool shit in the past that I'd like to see, and if you go too far in the future and it's just like fucking nuclear war and it's all blown up and shit, and you're like, well, this sucks, and you just go back to your time frame. But maybe then you would have some knowledge to be able to at least warn people, like, hey, shit's about to go bad, maybe we can try to prevent it, maybe it's an asteroid, whatever.
So do people, in this scenario, do people know that you are a time traveler? Do they know that you possess this technology, or are they going to think that you're some fucking stark raving lunatic?
Well, it depends on what time you go to. If you go back to the dinosaurs, there are no people to explain yourself to.
Well, I meant people in your current time frame. So if you did go into the future, see everything blown up, then you come back to our current time place, and you're trying to warn people, do they know, or are you just a random fucking guy walking down the street saying, the world's going to explode in 7 days, man?
No. They're definitely going to know. You're like an Elon Musk character. It's this big, news story, so they would know. So if you go to the future and come back and try to warn, they would know.
Okay, so you are the Neil Armstrong of time travel.
Correct, yeah. You are the guy. All cameras are pointed on you. It's all getting beamed into people's heads, because I'm assuming at the point where you have time travel, all media just gets straight beamed into your head. You don't have a phone or nothing like that. So everything's being beamed in these people's heads. They know who you are. You go, you come back, you let us know. So you can go to the future like that as well. But you said you wanted to go to the past. What time period?
I would have to say either like knights, like that time period, Old England, that kind of stuff. Either that or Renaissance period.
See, the Renaissance period is very interesting to me as well. The knights, I like the whole idea of it, but it seems like that would be a really shitty place to go back to.
Because 100% would. I know that would be extremely underwhelmed with that trip. Yeah,
because, there's just death, there's just bad sanitary issues. It's just a really shitty time frame. They don't call it the Dark Ages for nothing. So, while it'd be cool to go back and see some historic shit, and maybe some historic battles or something, I feel like that would be kind of a shitty thing. See, I think I would have to go back to prehistoric. I've always, ever since I was a little kid, I can't tell you how many fucking times I watched Jurassic Park, and just as a little kid just bounced up and down quoting the whole fucking movie. I loved dinosaurs. And the fact to be able to go back and experience them, I think that would be the cool shit ever. Obviously, I want something to where I'm completely invisible, I'm invulnerable, I'm God mode, whatever. I want cheats in this video game, please.
TGN.
Yeah, like, I do not want to get fucking ate up by a T-Rex and then just, that's my journey. Fuck that. I want to be able to see it and come back and talk about it.
Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. I don't know that I'm prepared to face dinosaurs. Like, even if they can't see me and can't smell me, I think that would probably still shit myself whenever I was in front
They might
of one.
smell the shit. That's probably not the best move.
So it's not invisible poo?
Well, I guess it'd be invisible poo, but is it scentless poo as well? I guess you would have to be.
Maybe, like, your whole being is just encapsulated?
Yeah, so anything on you or on your person or anything that drops out of your person is not visible and not smellable. Is there a word for smellable? Is smellable a word?
Scent?
Scent? I guess scent would be a good word to use. Smellable is another alternative if you're feeling a little adventurous. But if not, scent would work too.
I think you just scared the shit out of our viewers.
Double-edged fun? Wow, that hurts. I feel like I should just turn this off right now. That was just horrible.
Don't do it. We like puns.
I don't like puns.
God damn it, Cheryl. Shut up and do the fucking podcast.
I'm not Cheryl. What is this? Who is Cheryl?
You are...
I don't get
Tangent?
it.
Back on?
Back on.
Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs. I fucking love them. Okay, so saying you're not even going to the past. Like, what do you think about bringing them back? Straight up Jurassic Park style. Do you think it's a good idea or not?
No.
Just judging by the movies, no? Okay, say 100% we know it's guaranteed. No one's going to die. No one's going to go to the park and die. Nothing like that. Do you bring them back?
So are we just keeping them in a park, or are we trying to, like, reintroduce them to nature?
No, fuck that. They're monsters. You keep them locked up. Them bitches go in a cage. They don't get freedom. These motherfuckers don't have inalienable rights. They're dinosaurs.
See, I don't know, man.
So you're talking playing God there.
Yeah, there's definitely some kind of moral dilemma there.
What kind of moral dilemma do you have?
Like, I don't know if we should have the right to do that.
Who says we don't have the right to do that?
Me?
You. Just you.
No, I'm sure that there are many other people who feel the same way.
No, I agree.
I don't think that... well, yes, the nerd in me would love to see the science advance to that point. I don't know that it's a good idea because I feel like we could fuck some shit up. We could, by bringing those dinosaurs back, who's to say that there's not some tiny little fragment of DNA from some super virus that's going to wipe out humanity?
No, that's a very good point. Because you don't know what the fuck you're bringing back. And if they have some crazy gene that's locked onto some virus or something like that, that could just fucking kill the world. But another point to that is what, Jurassic Park doesn't tell you and what no one ever thinks about. It's just little inaccuracies in movies. Obviously, filmmaking, you don't have to be accurate. It's just entertainment. But back in those eras, in the Jurassic, the Triassic, the Cretaceous, all those eras, the oxygen levels were a lot more than they are now. Because, that's how animals that big could stay that big. They needed more oxygen to go into their blood. And so back then, the oxygen levels were a lot higher. We don't have those today. So, big shit like that probably couldn't even exist in our world. You hear about, or you even see if you look in books, there's these giant insects and giant arachnids and giant everything. Everything's giant. Giant sloth, Gigantopithecus, which is what some people think Bigfoot might be. All these giant things, it's because there was more oxygen than there is now. So everything's a lot smaller now because the atmosphere can't support large creatures like that anymore. So even if we were able to bring them back, once they got to a certain, however certain big they were going to be, that their body couldn't be sustained anymore, they would just die off anyway. Now, one other counterpart to that would be something like the woolly mammoth. Because the woolly mammoth was around 10,000 BC. So that was close to the same oxygen levels that we're still having today. So that could be brought back and still have a place to go. Because inside, that's where, a lot of them are from, Siberia and stuff like that. That place could still be a suitable habitat for those creatures. So even though, while I don't think it's ever going to be possible to bring dinosaurs back, unless you're talking smaller dinosaurs, you're never going to bring back a T-Rex. You're never going to bring back a Brontosaurus. You're not going to bring back any of those large ones. But, something like raptors, those could probably exist. They're I think they said there was 6 foot tall, maybe 200, 250 pounds. We have, that's the size of a lion. That's the size of a big grizzly. And, not as far as the weight. But, those could easily be brought back and be sustained. So I think stuff like that doesn't run the risk of just dying once it gets too big would be pretty fucking cool. They're talking about with woolly mammoths. I know they found one, I want to say it was in Siberia or something, that was almost fully preserved, like soft tissue and everything. So, that's the biggest thing. We have all these bones and all these fossils, but we don't have any soft tissue to get DNA from. Well, they have, like I said, almost a preserved mammoth with soft tissue, and they're talking about possibly splicing that DNA with elephant DNA and trying to bring back the woolly mammoth. So do you think that's immoral? If it has a suitable habitat and we can do it, is it immoral at that point? And that would even be a creature that's not locked up in a cage, in a zoo somewhere. You could reintroduce that and bring something back from extinction.
Yes. If we are reintroducing it into our current world, then I do 100% believe that is immoral of us.
But, okay, what about raptors? I don't think reintroducing that is a good thing, because you're reintroducing another predator that hasn't been seen for millions of years, but something 10,000 years ago, which in our time frame, in the time frame of the world, is a blink of a fucking eye. It's pretty close. It's not gonna I don't think that would make or break our species or anything else.
Raptors or mammoths?
Mammoths. No, fuck raptor. I don't want raptors running around.
Okay, I got you.
Lions and tigers and bears are already too fucking scary. I don't need 6 foot tall lizards with feathers chasing me the fuck down and eating my fucking body.
Right, and I say that I don't think that we should ever reintroduce any species that has gone extinct back into the world, because our species have already adapted to it. We have evolved to overcome these things that have gone missing. A fucking mammoth comes back in. How much food do they have to eat?
Right.
And how much is that going to impact the Sega antelope and, the fucking elk and all that shit, all the other herd grazing animals? How much will a fucking mammoth impact that?
True. That's a good point. But what about species that we've, as humans, made extinct?
Then I think that there's certainly less moral gray area there.
Yeah.
Something that is so close to us that we have records of. Our evolution has not accounted for those things being gone missing yet. So with that, I don't think that would necessarily be an issue to reintroduce them.
I want to say there's some kind of animal. I think it's called the Tasmanian tiger. Don't quote me on it, but it was like a dog, but it had like tiger stripes. So it's kind of like like a hyena or a wolf or something like that with like tiger stripes on it. And that went extinct because of humans. We hunted those into extinction. And so like something like that, I think would be a fucking awesome thing to bring back, because it was our fault that it went extinct in a way. We hunted. Fuck with the bison or the buffalo, and those almost went extinct in our, or not our generation, but our era of modern humans because of overhunting, because we just drove them to the brink of existence, and now they're protected and they're actually making a really big comeback. But they used to be so prevalent over here, and that we knocked them down so far with overhunting and stuff like that, that we had to save them. So, I mean, what about the species that we weren't able to save? I think those would be something that we could bring back morally, and I think that reintroducing those would be a good thing for the animal kingdom itself.
Yeah, I mean, I just personally, I don't know enough about evolution and the adaptations thereof to make a judgment call on that.
No, definitely not. But I think it would be fucking cool to see some of those extinct animals.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I believe that maybe if we kept them in captivity and didn't actually reintroduce them into the wild, then, yeah, that would be cool.
It seems kind of mean, though, just to fucking bring an animal back from extinction and then just throw it in a fucking zoo. I feel like if you're going to be morally correct about it, the only way to do it is to bring back an animal and reintroduce that animal to the world. I don't think bringing it back and throwing it in a zoo is a morally thing to do. Now, granted, I want to see that, because if we could totally bring back dinosaurs and our atmosphere can sustain them, yeah, I want to see a fucking T-Rex. Who doesn't? But it's not morally correct. Does that mean that I wouldn't go buy a ticket? Fuck no. I'm buying a ticket and going to see that T-Rex. But, I would feel a little bit bad about it afterwards, while I'm sitting there eating popcorn. But either way.
Yeah, I mean, and the whole concept even applies to our modern zoos. Zoos as we know them. I mean, you go there, you see all these animals running around in pens. Those fucking things aren't happy.
Right.
I mean, granted, yeah, most of them have been bred in captivity and haven't known anything else, but I mean, that's still sad as shit. How would you like to spend all of your life in a 10x10 fucking pen running around?
Yeah. And I can't remember who it was, and, I think I heard it, I'm pretty sure from Joe Rogan, it might have been one of his bits or something like that, but he was talking about how giraffes are just fucking happy as shit in the zoo because they don't have shit chasing them and trying to eat them the whole damn time. It's like, you show me an unhappy giraffe, you're a fucking liar. So, I mean, for some animals, I think it might not be too bad of a living. I mean, while maybe they're not getting to run and, roam the savannah freely, they're also not having fucking lions and leopards and cheetahs chasing them down trying to eat their faces either. Yeah,
but I think that is genetically ingrained in them to enjoy, not necessarily enjoy that, but it's what they need to live. They're made to fucking sprint miles and miles and miles from a cheetah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole fucking antelope's purpose. That is the antelope's evolutionary process, is it fucking evolved to outrace the North American cheetah. And it did, and there's no more fucking cheetahs in North America, because they fucking evolved to outrace those.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because, I mean, everything, in nature, I guess, it's natural, right? It's nature. So, I mean, if there's an animal that, went extinct because it, couldn't get a food source or something like that, bringing that back is kind of a slap in the face to Mother Nature.
Yeah.
It's kind of like saying, hey, you were wrong, this shouldn't have died. Well, it's survival of the fucking fittest.
Right.
That's like us trying to bring back, Homo erectus or something like that, the caveman. I think that if nature deemed it to be extinct, it should be. But with the animals, like I said, that we caused over hunting issues or whatever like that, and there's fish species that are just not seen anymore because we overfished them. So shit like that, I don't think there would be too much of an issue bringing that back in, because I think that it wasn't naturally selected to go out anyway. No, all that is to say, I mean, humans are part of nature. And humans, we are one with nature, whether we want to think of it like that or not. So even if, say, we do out-hunt something, we overhunt or overfish something, we're still part of nature. Is that still nature taking that out of existence?
I mean, at some point, we escaped the normal binds of nature, though. I mean, we developed so far that there isn't any other species that can conquer us. I mean, I think we're getting pretty damn close.
Well, that's to say, I mean, obviously they can't conquer us by our means, but if I stick you out in a jungle with no weapons, I'm pretty sure that cheetah's going to eat your fucking face off.
Yeah, 100%, but I mean, how many times are you lost in the jungle?
It depends on where you live. I don't personally have any jungles around me, but if you go to South Africa, pretty sure you're going to find some jungles.
I mean, just think about it, though. If humans and cheetahs were on the same playing field, I think there would be a hell of a lot more fucking cheetahs.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
There's 7 billion humans. How many fucking cheetahs are there? I doubt it's 7 billion.
No, it's definitely not 7 billion. I mean, we've definitely evolved past the point of what you would commonly refer as nature, but we are part of nature.
Yeah, we are.
I mean, nature is what bred us, what, evolution brought us up. And so, I mean, it's kind of a gray area when you talk about overhunting, overfishing to cause extinction. Well, we're still part of nature. We grew up, we're survival of the fittest as well. We got to the top of the food chain, and if we take something out of existence, isn't that still nature taking it out of existence?
I mean, technically, yes. But at some point, we have to take responsibility for our actions. Otherwise, this planet's going to be completely bereft of any living organisms.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're fucking it now as it is.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And I mean, it's not like, we're part of the problem as well. I drive a fucking big-ass Hemi Dodge, and you drive a big V8 Nissan Titan. So, I mean, we're not helping the atmosphere either. But, we should.
I think as a race, we're starting to make movements towards the betterment of that.
Yeah, and hopefully with the coming generations and the the younger kids coming up, like right now with just Tesla, with the solar-powered cars, and they're doing the new sunroof and stuff like that, a lot more solar power and clean energy. And, a lot more of the California. I know when we took our trip to California, we saw a lot more wind turbines and stuff than you see here in Texas, even though Texas would be a perfect spot for them. We're the fucking plains. The wind blows through the plains fucking easy, no obstruction. It blows through really nice. But, I mean, it seems like, so hopefully the newer generations and the next generations go more green and are able to at least counter what our generations have already done. Because we're still fucking, and I mean, the human race is going to continue to do so, but I do agree with what you're saying. It seems like we are moving to a more greener civilization.
Yeah, and I read an article on Reddit the other day, and I can't remember which European country it was. I want to say it was France, but don't directly quote me on that. But they were talking about how by the year 2020, all coal production power plants will be gone.
Every single one. Is that just in
country.
France?
Yeah,
Okay.
in that country.
Okay.
They're striving to eliminate every single coal power plant. And I mean, just little things like that. I mean, it's one tiny-ass European country.
Right.
But it's still progress.
You just pissed off everybody from Italy.
My bad, dogs.
You just called them little. They are normal. We are just fat.
No. They're human body forms. They're completely normal. Their country's small as shit.
Well, don't diss their country.
I'm not... yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are. Just because you're from America.
My
You're
bad.
this big, bad American badass going to diss the little guys.
I'm just
Italy
saying...
would fuck you up.
Just saying your country, your country is the size of one of our states. So regardless of the millions of people from Italy who are tracking our IP address right now and coming to kill us, I believe that we as a human race are moving towards nuclear power.
Yeah, I mean, nuclear power could be the next... I mean, we're already using some of it now. But, I mean, it could become more prevalent in the coming years. And it might not even be the nuclear power. It could be with the Large Hadron Collider that we find, maybe we do get antimatter. And, they say that the smallest portion of antimatter that we could harvest could produce energy for the world to sustain itself for years or something like that. So, I mean, the work they're doing with the LHC could be the way that it moves the world to that greener energy. Or something like that, to where we could get off all the coal, all the fossil fuels, and stop, burning up our atmosphere and creating all this toxic waste. Maybe it's the Large Hadron Collider that, brings it back to us.
Right, or, aside from that, what I was saying is that, we do fusion. We go into fusion and trying to start replicating how stars produce their energy, by fusing hydrogen and helium.
Yeah, because, I mean, stars, if we could find some way to, I mean, not only just solar power, but, I mean, a way to actually harvest the sun's energy from the source, not getting the light particles that we're already getting now, the photons that we're turning into energy. But if we could find a way to harvest our sun's energy, going back to the Stargate universe that I was watching, the way that the ship refueled itself, they were flying through the ship in the Stargate universe show, and the ship's power systems, they were all failing and going down, and they saw that on their course they were headed right towards a star. And they thought that they were going, the ship was going to crash into the star and blow up. So they sent out a group of survivors on another little ship, a smaller ship that was on the main ship. And so they would at least survive while the main ship was going to die and go into the star. They drew names, to see who would survive or whatever like that. So the little ship leaves the big ship, and the big ship, which I believe they called Destiny, was going straight for the star, and they thought they were going to die. Well, it turns out that when they went through the star, all the shields came down on the ship, and it actually harvests the sun's energy from the inside, or not the sun's energy, but the star's energy they were flying into. It harvested its energy and then powered itself back up to 100% and kept on going. So if there was some way we could, either with the nuclear fission, the antimatter, or, being able to actually harvest some of our sun's energy from the source itself versus just the fragment of energy we get from solar power, if we could find some way to harvest some energy like that and get off of all the shit, maybe we could clean up our game.
Right. And I mean, we see this in nature even, we observe the neutron stars. And whenever they're close to a large star and they do collapse in on themselves as neutron stars do, they start drawing power from the other star and start rotating faster and faster and faster and faster.
So if we can find some way to replicate that or artificially replicate something like that, we can move off of that. But I mean, that's saying that the LHC doesn't create a black hole and swallow the fucking Earth as it is today.
Yes, hopefully Switzerland will get to hear this podcast.
Yeah, it would really suck if we make, like 5 podcasts and then the LHC just fucking goes crazy and then there's a black hole that just starts sucking everything in and then we're not in existence anymore. No one hears this. We're doing all this for nothing. I'm sitting in a fucking closet with your stinky ass for nothing.
I watched yesterday.
Good enough. But either way, this has been the Random Words Podcast, and hopefully we made your Monday just a little bit better. I'm Cheryl, this is Matt, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.
See you later, bitches.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this week's episode. But in the meantime, if you're wanting to keep up with the show, there's a few different places you can reach out to us at. We're on Twitter at randomwordscast, facebook.com/the Random Words Podcast, and you can find our archives on YouTube. Also, if you want to send us an email, hit us up at therandomwordspodcast@gmail.com. And don't worry, we'll be back next week to fill your ears once again. Stay beautiful, you fucks.
The Random Words Podcast will shut down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Goodbye.